Hi, Ingrid. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's such an honor and a pleasure.
Sec to hear about your near-death experience. Can you briefly describe what had happened?
Okay, let's try to bring us to that moment. So, yeah, this one definitely was very different from the first near death experience. The second one, I would just say, in the first one, when I was a little child, everything happened more like in stages. Like if I guess your mind needs to be prepared for what is to come. The second one, things happen in a completely different way. As we shared before in another interview, the first one happened when I was 2 years old, nearly three. The second near that happened when I was 24 years old, 25. And by then I was living in an island in Colombia called San Andres, and I purchased my first motorcycle. And I was excited, but I was very nervous. I had never, I mean, I knew how to ride a bicycle, but not a motorcycle. So I was learning how to do it. I was in my kind of first days of just doing flat areas here and there and building confidence. And a friend of mine said, I was one evening eating dinner at his home, and he said, "Oh, can you bring me up the hill to whatever place?" And he needed to go. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not sure. I haven't done hills yet. And I kind of feel pretty nervous. I'm just learning to kind of hold this motorcycle in place." And this friend was he was a tall guy, a strong guy. And on top of you, in my mind, thinking and feeling I have to hold this motorbike in place. Now this guy is sitting behind me. So in my mind, I was, I guess, is all this nervousness was inside of me. But he was, hey, pretty confident. You can do it. No problem. Pretty much when somebody tell you you're being like a chicken, then you just like, okay, I'm not, and I'm going to do. I grabbed the bike and we were driving. I was riding the motorcycle, and the flat area was kind of okay. But this is incredible how the mind operates. I wasn't even in the hill yet, and my mind was already started to think, oh my God, can I handle this? Can I be in this? I don't know. I am nervous. And inside of me, I'm building all these fear and all this anticipation and all this. I think I was entering into like a panic mode already. Why? I don't know, all based in thought. Look at how our mind can serve us or can destroy us. And then the more we're approaching the hill, I'm like, okay, now up the hill. This was actually a pretty steep hill. That's why it wasn't like a little easy way go up a mountain. It was pretty steep. So I was thinking, can I dominate this bike? And then we started to go up the hill. And it was at night too. This road really didn't have any lighting. So on top of that, it was like a very dark area. So when we started to go up the hill, I started to feel that I did not have control over the bike. I felt it heavy. I felt that my mind, I think the heaviness was my mind. I keep repeating this because I just think that this accident happened because my mind building all this story and all this negativity inside. So there was a moment in which the bike needed the change of gear because we were going up this hill. And then I think the moment I tried to change gears, and the feeling that I wasn't doing it right, that I was nervous, that I was shaking, I lost control. And I felt like, I don't know, like when you change the gear in a motorcycle, you feel the kind of like the shake of the bike a little. I think at that moment, I just completely lost in fear, lost balance, and the motorcycle went on the side. I lost control. And it was so fast. One moment we were driving, and another moment we were already on the ground. So The problem was it maybe would not have been a very serious accident. I wasn't going that fast anyways if I would have had a helmet. But being young and thinking, oh, who needs a helmet? I mean, like, I wasn't wearing one. And then the moment I lost control, the motorcycle fell. My body, my head hit the ground with such an impact. But something happened. I think I was so lost in the fear and in the anxiety that as fast as it was falling, it was the feeling that, I don't know, it's hard to explain, like I wasn't there anymore. It's like immediately is the moment where you enter completely the no time. These things are very hard to explain because on one moment you are in complete terror, horror, anxiety, anticipation, and in the next moment is all gone in just a flash. And I went from being in the whole situation of that fear to being standing in the middle of the road. And I am standing in the middle of the road completely peaceful. And this resembles my first near-death experience in which I was drowning and I was in that state of horror, terror, and in just a blink, I'm in peace. Same exact thing happened. I went from, imagine like when I fell, the motorcycle fell on top of me. I hit my head with the ground. My body was scraped, everything. And imagine it was like a moment of pain immediately gone. There was not even a second. It's just like, I could almost say that even before the bike fell, I was already out. It's like it was almost instantaneous. And I'm out and I'm like, oh, and I'm seeing light. And I am like feeling peace and I'm feeling the state of complete serenity, well-being, calmness. I think the thing that I kept forever in my mind, the thing that I can never forget was the sense of not having fear, the sense of not having pain, the sense of knowing, wow, the pain is in the body, the sense of complete readiness, the sense of I'm ready to go home. And I was okay. Everything was perfectly all right. And then I'm seeing like light everywhere. This looking forward, it was only light, only light. And then when I am there standing you know what I also feel? Imagine like when these things just come to my mind, when you're in a moment of absolute and complete and total confidence. You're standing high up, straight, and all fear, and you're just the owner of the moment. That's that feeling. And then my friend who was he just had minor scrapes and everything. He was the one that removed the bike from, it was lying on me and on my leg. It took the motorbike away and he called for help and help arrived to the area. And then that's when the horrifying moment came back, or when the fear came back, was because now I feel that I'm being touched and my body is being shaken, is being touched. And it's when I realize why I feel something, but I cannot see. I cannot see who's touching me. And then at that moment, I touch my face. And it's when I realize, oh, I cannot see this person. I cannot see. So it's when I pass from seeing light. And this is the other thing. At this whole moment, the moment I started to see the light and feel this, the more I enter into the peace, the presence of the beings of light. I was surrounded completely by beings of light, and they stayed with me the entire time. But this moment when I touch my eyes and realize, like I'm putting my hands in front of my eyes and I realize I cannot see who's around me, is when I realize I physically I am blind. What happened is that when I hit the ground and I had such a severe head trauma, I lost my vision. So now is when, of course, the whole fear, everything came back, because it's the realization at that moment when I'm now back in feeling, sensing, and this fear is like, I don't want to be blind. I just saw anything but not being blind. That was one of the most scariest moments in my life. And then I was rushed to the hospital. The whole time is, just this fear. What is it going to happen? How is it going to be a life of being blind? Oh, imagine now all the return of that mental, that other kind of fear. Now at the hospital, little by little, I started to recover my vision. What the doctors explain later is that, yeah, when I hit the ground, the impact was so hard that it's like, I guess the optic nerve at that moment disconnected. My whole brain went into shock. And then, but we were there. My friend was there with me all the time, coming and staying with me at the hospital, because, like I said, he only had minor scrapes. I was seriously scrape everywhere, and with the head trauma. And then the moment when the doctor came and he explained to me that I have lost my vision, it had to be the moment I hit the ground because of the impact. And I said to him, no, it cannot be, because I am standing in the middle of the road and I'm seeing light. How can I lose my vision if I'm seeing you? We have this, I guess, knowledge or clarity that if I'm seeing light, I'm not in a dark room. If I see light, my eyes are open. And then I'm saying, I'm seeing light. I'm surrounded by light everywhere. So how could I have lost my vision right there? And I said that, and I'm standing in the middle of the road, and my friend with the doctor said, no, Ingrid, it's impossible. It was at night and the road was pitch black. You could not have seen any light. And by the way, you never stood up. So it's when, different from my first near death, when I had the clarity of seeing my body, the clarity of leaving it behind. This time I just completely left the body, and I was standing in the middle of the road thinking, this is who I am. Since I was very little, I had, and with all the experiences I have, or out-of-body experiences through time, I have learned to disconnect from the body. And it was done in such way that I'm standing in the middle of the road as a soul, not even realizing I already had abandoned the body. And at that moment is when I realized, I get it. I was seeing the light with the eyes of my soul. I was immersed in the light. It was again the discovery, we are the light. And we are submerged in that perception of light being light. So this is the other amazing thing I experienced. And this is not a memory I kept at the moment, because again, after that, the horror of realizing I cannot see, the hospital, everything else that happened, recovering. But later in my life, one day, sometimes, and you can hear it from many people that have had traumatic experiences or near-death experiences, some memories get locked and they only come back when the time is needed, when the mind is ready, when you are, certain clarities come back later. But later in my life, one day I was getting a massage, and then a memory came back from the time I had this accident. And the memory that came out that moment was like, I remember when I came back and I experienced the union between my soul and the nervous system, and how this connection between body and soul is what the soul needs to experience this reality. That's why we say the soul is using these bodies, is a way in how the soul experiences the soul, to say, use this vehicle for more learning, for more evolution, for more growth. Then it was incredible that holding that realization, wow, imagine if we become more intelligent and use the body as a way to communicate with the soul, and the soul as a way to experience through the body. So to me grew more this sense of embodiment, the sense of how can I use all these as a way to grow and evolve. The other beautiful thing about this experience is that now I could talk to people that have lost, or through serious accidents like that, or traumatic accidents, they have lost loved ones. People come to me and they said, oh, I wonder if my son or my husband or whoever, my friend, suffered when they died. And it's always this pain related with, you don't want your loved one to suffer. I only see my son crying for something and I'm already, he's crying, and you want to just kind of hold this person. So imagine now you lost someone you love in a tragic accident. And I can say with all confidence that you don't, that the pain belongs to the body, to the nervous system. Once the soul is detached from the body, there's no pain. There's not that suffering. There's all that fear that is related with survival, and that is part of our limbic system, is gone. And now you're like, oh, you go back to be the super expanded version, the soul that you are. Then that's how I experience this second near death. But it's also the part of experiencing the gratitude of our senses, the gratitude of my sight coming, the gratitude of just how can I really be more grateful for the things that we take for granted. So it's amazing how each experience has been so different and have brought different levels of understanding, evolution, clarity. And again, it was the going back to remember you are soul. To going back to remember you are not the body, but the body is a precious vehicle for you to experience humanity, for you to experience contrast, for you to experience different kind of things that is going to bring you to evolve. So how can I be more respectful, more loving of this vehicle? So imagine that you, to say it, you have a pressure, a beautiful car that it takes you so hard to acquire, and now you're not going to let it rot and never change the oil and never put gas because then it will not move. No, you're going to try to keep it, maintain it. So that's the body. The body is a vehicle and the soul is the driver. So how can I keep this vehicle? Another example, analogy I like to give, imagine a horse, because a car, sometimes maybe there's the lovers of cars and they want their car to just be at the best, but imagine a horse. You have a beautiful horse and you are the rider of this horse. You want to keep this horse well fed, well maintained, good sleep, you would brush the hair, you educate this, all these because you want this horse to take you places, to be your best friend, to be your good company, but it's always knowing, oh, also I have to be a good driver or a good rider. See, and is how I use my consciousness, my the memory of I am a soul and your soul consciousness to be a better being, grounded and embodied in this reality. So it's how I live a life in balance, being human and divinity, being human and soul, being the non-physical and the physical in balance together. So that's what this experience brought to my life, more clarity, more evolution.
So, what was your life prior to this NDE?
Wow, what happened is that I had, like, my first near death experience when I was a little child, and I went through, let's call it, many challenges because there was not understanding around me of what had happened with this child. And I came back with many skills that I didn't have before, a very early age. Right after my near death, I could read, I could write, I could develop mathematical problems. I was very intelligent, and it kept evolving more and more. And I remember knowing I'm not learning anything, I'm just remembering. But it brought a lot of challenge because the people around me did not have an understanding of what was happening to this child. I didn't have it either. So it took, thankfully, my mother, my grandmother, were my mother with her compassion and also her ability to communicate with the spirit world, validated that, yeah, this child is definitely communicating and something is happening here. She called them angels, I call them beings of light. But thanks to my mom, let's call it validation, and thanks to her compassion and love for me, I was able to kind of like go with what was happening. And my grandmother brought spirituality into my life. But for many years, I was this child that really wasn't understood by anybody. And when I went to school, I got very isolated and very ostracized and bullied because I was different, even by the teachers, because I had such an intelligence and there was no programs for children like me back then. And they would be, if you know everything, go to that corner and let us be. They were bad. They were like, ugh. They didn't know what to do with this child. So I had a very challenging upbringing in all that sense. And the moment I went to college, I had very few friends at school. I mean, I think the friends I got happened because I was so bullied that some felt compassionate. I don't know. And then a friendship happened with a couple of girls, but that was it. I just really didn't feel that I belong. I never felt that I belong. Once I started college, I said, I'm going to change that, Ingrid, no more. And I'm going to completely be another. I wanted to be something else. So that's what happened. I disconnected with a lot of what I have done. My grandmother used to take me to all these spiritual places, gatherings, and I was the little one, always in the middle of all these adults. And then when I went enter college, I was very young back then. I was 17. And then I picked a career that was very grounding. This is the other thing. I started to have visions since I was a little child. And I knew what I was going to do, who I was going to be, the things that. So when I was only 4 years old and my parents took me to see the ocean for the first time, I turned to my mom and I said, someday I'm going to know what is under that blanket. Because I called the ocean blanket. It was the first time I saw the ocean. And then this idea of this craving for the ocean started to happen. And People ask me, how could you become a marine scientist, marine biologist, if you drown? My first near death was drowning. And then that was just amazing. And I said, because drowning brought me to see the light. So I was interested always in the depthness. Incredible how there's parallels. It was like the deep ocean, the deep learning, the deep teachings. I wanted to know more about everything. The other thing, becoming a scuba diver became one of my favorite things, because I could be in the water, surrounded by people, without the need to talk. I always thought people talk too much. I wanted to be in silence. Said, oh, I can be with people and I don't have to talk to them. So it just gave me this sense of peace and calmness and quiet. So that was growing up. Again, I just felt always that sense of not being part, not belonging. I went to college. I knew the career I picked was marine science. I was 5 years old. And one day I told my dad, I even have the memory of the exact day. And I said to him, Dad, when I grow up, I'm going to be a marine scientist. He was blown away because there was nobody. We live in the mountains. There was no ocean, but they only knew that I was completely absorbed by anything related with the ocean, but nobody ever told me about a career called marine sciences or anything like that. I was 5 and I said, I'm going to be a marine scientist. And he said, like, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's what you will do. And I had that complete clear knowing I will be a scientist. So when I started my career, in a way that was good, because that brought me to ground. I needed the grounding. And by the age of 19, this all happened gradually, how we transform and change. But the age of 19, I told the beings of light that let me do my thing, pretty much. There was a moment where I had this, let's call it spiritual mystical experience, in which I'm riding a bus. I am on sitting on a bus, and then I felt like I was an observer of the world, like I was just an observer. And then I just thought, what is it that I am observing? And then I heard life itself from your own perception. You are here to experience life, all of us as human, with all the contrast, with all of it. And oh, I thought at that moment. And the moment that I am receiving this message, I started to see how everything started to dissolve. How the bus I was sitting in was just there because trillions of subatomic particles were organized to be this bus. And I started to have the sense of all the constituents that made this bus possible, and how everything was held by vibration and sound. And I was having all these clarities, and I started to see how everything was just, that's what the idea of everything is an illusion come, because I realized matter is not solid. Nothing is as solid as we think it is. Nothing is what we think it is. And I started to go into that deeper state of clarity and knowledge. And there was a moment in which everything dissolved, and I entered again into the light. And it's when I received a message if I wanted to be a teacher, spiritual teacher, a teacher of all this knowledge. And at that moment I said, I was tired of feeling different, feeling of no belonging, feeling that I didn't want to be here. And then I said, no, I don't want to. So I was back here in my physical reality as we see it. And I said, I don't want to teach anything. Can I just please be left alone? Pretty much the people say, how could you say to the beings of light that you don't want to talk to them anymore. And I said, yeah, I guess at that moment we need independence. We need to grow. We need to ground. And it's when I said to people, how could you leave your parents and go to college? It's the same thing. I said, at the same time, you know that your parents will always be there one call away. That's how I felt with the beings of light. And that was the answer I got back. Okay, go do your thing, but we will always be here. And little by little, that transition of disconnecting from the beings of light started to happen. You know how you call your parents less and less, and they
Mhm.
calling you, you don't even call. That happened. And I started to do things that were even more um, grounding, and my career. I become very busy. And the first boyfriend I had in college wasn't just one that was very spiritual, or I would not have lower my vibrational frequency. Was one that was just about parties, and he liked heavy metal, and then he had a band. And yeah, so it's all about focus. It's all about where your vibration is and where your focus of attention is. And then at that moment, there's a law called the law of resonance, that you can have two guitars, one sitting next to the other, and the string that you pull in one guitar, the vibration the other guitar will resemble, that same string will vibrate. That's called the law of resonance. So wherever your vibration is and your focus of attention is, whatever it is the string you're pulling is where you are at. And that's the reality that you call around you to be. So I started to lower my vibration, because people ask me, how can I connect with the beings of light? Oh, you have to vibrate high. You have to go back to silence. You have to go back to presence and spaciousness. And when we lost the focus of attention and start getting very distracted, you lose that connection. It's like going into a discotheque. The silence is always within, but the sound, the noise, you can be talking to me, and if we're outside of the discotheque, I can hear you. It doesn't mean you ever stop talking. No, I go inside of the discotheque, I cannot hear you. It's too loud. So the beings of light, the universe is always talking to us. But where
But
is
it's
our
not always easy to be in silence. Like it's like sometimes things are going, there's so much chaos happening in the life, life is so busy and our mind is just going crazy. It's hard to sit down and be in silence and try to calm down the mind.
yeah, that's why that has to be a powerful intention. And that has to be the work. As we effort in becoming noisy, we have to effort in becoming quiet. It's the
So what
same thing.
practical steps could we take to get to that space or get to that level?
Little by little, start being more present in what we do. See, so for example, you're drinking your coffee. You grab your cup of coffee, and instead of like, oh my gosh, thinking in the 10,000 things and holding the coffee, it's like, oh, let's look, that second of presence with that breath is the beginning of everything. Then you have one sip in present. Oh, this coffee is so good. For that moment, you stop. It's not at the beginning, we cannot stand with 100 minutes of presence, because it's not going to happen. 1 second at a time. How people say how you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How you cross the world? One step at a time. Then one breath at a time. One conscious breath at a time. I said, people, what do you do when you're heating the water for your coffee, your tea? Oh, nothing. Maybe looking at the phone. I don't know. I said, pause. One conscious breath. And I call it the pause method. The P for presence. 1 second of presence. The A of allowing. Allow this moment to be that second. The U of unity. Once you enter in that present, you're in union with that moment. You're in union with this cup. Look, unity. The S of serenity, silence. Oh, silence happened right there. And the E of expansion. And that moment, you expand yourself. See, just in this voice, you already feel it. See, that happened when you pause. And people said to me, but what is stillness? That means you pause and you never do anything? Like, what is this thing about being in calmness, stillness, and presence? I said, no. Stillness and movement are dancing together. You just have to learn to find that rhythm, that balance. So from this stillness of the moment when I smell my coffee, you enter into a moment of peace, connection with inner wisdom, inner peace. And from that silence, the beings of light said to me, power comes from the place of silence. Wisdom comes from the place of silence. You connect with inner wisdom. You connect with the place of where the answers are, where there's no noise. So you can, now I'm ready for my day. Why do you think we go to sleep? It's the same thing. It's a moment of pause. A person that can never ever sleep goes crazy. See, pause is a natural thing. And the more we try to fight it and avoid it, the more sick we become. That's why we need a rest and sleep. And people don't understand that even when you close your eyes, there's a moment of pause. When you breathe, there's a moment of pause. When you speak, we don't talk la 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 la. It's a pause between words. Pause is natural. Pause and movement are dancing together. The problem is it's unbalanced, and now we have forgotten that. I remember when Wayne Dyer said, we're not human doers, we're human beings. We're forgetting the beingness of ourselves. We need to go back to the rhythm of being and doing. When I had my what I call a big awakening, and I was still working for NASA, and I was surrounded by scientists, and I went there and I'm like, and I am asking the beings of light, and this full reconnection with the beings of light happened. And I said, what can I do or say to these people? Because now you want to be kind of like, how can I now share all this with the world? And they said, do or say nothing. The light of your awareness is all they need. Before thinking about doing or saying anything, be that. And the saying and the doing come from the place of being. When you don't allow yourself to be, you become reactive. Compulsion is what you are. So it's just reactivity. When you learn to pause, you access the place of wisdom. You become responsive. I love this word. When I heard it from another teacher, you become response able. See, and it's when now you're part of the solution and not part of the problem. And that's how you start, little by little, one conscious breath at a time. And it feels good. And when you do it, you guess what happened? Now you want to talk in scientific terms. You free hormones of well-being. When you free hormones of well-being, less cortisol in the system. Less cortisol, less inflammation. The system feels good. The nervous system is like, oh, this feels, oh. And the more you start reconditioning your body to hormones of well-being, and feeling good, new neuropaths, new chemistry, new physiology, new biology. See, this works at all levels of being. So, and look what you're doing, just being intentional of one conscious breath. That's the beginning. become how other example, you can do this with your hands and feel your right there, you feel your energy. Oh, you start paying attention to your body. Where does it feel? How does it feel? You start embodying your emotions. You start integrating the body as part of your growth and evolution. So yeah, everything starts with the intention of wanting to be present.
So why do you think you had the second near death experience? Was it because you were, like you said, you were fearful, you created the negativity, or was there another reason for you to go through the second near death experience?
No, I think that I might never have the full answer of that, but I think all of us go through different um, kind of experiences to be able to probably bring it to the knowledge of other people. Everything at the end is for our own growth and evolution, and our own growth and evolution. I'm not just talking about Ingrid as an individual, but growth and evolution for all of us together, because none of us function independently from anything or from each other. We're all interconnected. So anything that happened to anyone at the same time is impacting everything and the whole. So me having these kind of experiences and being able to bring them and to be able to be the vehicle from which these things are happening, maybe it being I'm preparing myself also as a scientist, as everything else, and open doors for me to write books, to bring this knowledge, to be this vehicle in which these experiences can be brought to others. And incredibly, I was told more than 1 year, that's not even possible. So it's when you realize what is impossible, what is not possible. Only the mind is limited. Anything is possible. I always say, and now it's like the realization that there was the first one, second one, then a third one. And when we have the time to talk about it, I even in my last near death experience realized that I had another encounter with death when I was an infant. So that makes it 4. So incredibly is like what happened is that our mind comes very um, limited and conditioned in thinking that we are a body and that we are just a solid physical reality. Once you know and once you enter in that space, that knowing, oh, I am form and formless. I am consciousness. I am the light of consciousness. And I have the capacity. All this is a manifestation of consciousness. The more access you have to, let's call it the no form, the divinity, the aspect of non-present, the consciousness itself, the more you are able to access the other states or all the, I say we are multi-dimensional beings. We are experiencing all different levels of reality at the same time. And I can even talk about that. I had an experience about that too. And it's just I always say to people, because how can you remember your experience when I was a little child? How can you remember this? How can you this and that? I said, it's like the door for me never closed. I said, it's like the door for me never closed. It's like you always having one foot in the spirit realm, one foot in the in the physical realm. And then until I receive a teaching that says, Ingrid, of course the door never closed, because there are no doors. What we call the kingdom of heaven, what we call the divinity, what we call God, what we call the light of consciousness is always here for everyone at all times. Again, we're the ones that, due to conditioning, beliefs, cultural attachments, we disconnect. we close the windows. But if you even open a little tiny bit the window, the sun is out there, always shining. It's like, oh, and no matter how tight you close it, yeah, it might be dark, but you open a little and it's out there. See, so we are the ones that put these doors and these windows. For me, I had the first near-death experience. I kept having out-of-body experiences, connections with the beings of light. And who knows, my purpose in this world is to bring these messages, to be this vehicle of for consciousness, to bring these clarities to and it's been incredible, the power of being able to be that connector. Like at the end, like I said to you, all of us, imagine a big puzzle, and all of us are that piece of the puzzle. And you, in this moment, you're being a person with this beautiful podcast, being able to share knowledge with the world. And me, through this vehicle, I'm able to share these experiences with the world and bring the clarity. Oh no, once you're connected with the spirit realm, once you realize that the door, you're the one putting the door, anything is possible. You could have 10 million near-death experiences. You might not really need it as a near-death experience anymore. I said we don't need the trauma of having to go through that with the body. What about we use meditation, we use methods of prayer, concentration, everything else to get there without a near death. But I guess some of us have to have these experiences and bring them to the world for others to know, yeah, this is possible. Yeah, I can get there too without the need of a near-death experience. How does it feel? Like the question, how being that feel? What the other world is? How you go there? So many questions that we can answer when people like me have had these experiences. So I'm
Now,
just one
after
of
you,
those.
so after your second near-death experience, did you reconnect with spirits of light? Like you said, when you went to college, you kind of closed the door. You kind of wanted to live your life. So did you reconnect with them after that? And did you also did it change your life? Like you were living a different life, right? Like you were partying or
Oh
whatnot.
yeah, oh yeah. That brought change. That brought change for yeah. I was living in this island, and that opened a new chapter in my life because now I realized I have more to do. And then I moved for a while. I went to live in Europe. It just it put my mind into, yeah, it set it up in a different direction again. And now I was like, oh no, I have more serious things to do. I have other things to do. And I move and I kind of recalibrate to say something. And then, yeah, it completely switched to a different path. And the feeling and the need of being, again, go back to be more spiritual, it started to happen. But it didn't create the full change I needed to have right there. I guess I needed to have many more grounding and many more experiences before I had what I call the big awakening that happened when I was 39 years old. That's
So
when I had,
was this before your third near-death experience, or was it after?
no, before
Okay.
my third near that experience happened 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I, through all my life, I live a life in which I wanted to, in many ways, although I was as a scientist and as a woman and as a mother, I've been very successful in many things I have done. I think that one important thing about, and I like to bring this up, once you start remembering who you truly are and open the space for inner connection consciousness, probably I wasn't yet resolved for many years in my emotional baggage, my emotional state of being. A Catholic calls that the pain body, although I was still having to go through a lot of stuff. That connection, that capacity to become silent and focus brought a lot of success in my career. I was able to develop incredible projects for the agencies and the places I worked. And so I was very successful in my career. I was successful as in many aspects. But inside of me, I always had this lingering desire to die. Because when I die, the when I had my other near-death experiences, imagine that feeling of peace and no fear, love, peace beyond understanding, serenity, well-being. I was like, oh, this is home. So I always wanted to go back home. It was that sense, and I suffer from what is called existential depression, the sense of, I don't want to be here. It was this sense that you could not pinpoint it, but it was like this longing for home. And I always, in that sense, I felt like I had to go somewhere else, meaning I had to die to find that. And when I had my third near death experience is when all that changed. And this all happened because I needed a surgery. I had to have this surgery, and I thought I could heal without the need of that surgery. And I was like, oh, I don't want to have this surgery. And I was kind of doing alternative medicine and everything to not have to go through this surgery. But my body was definitely needing it. Sometimes in life we reach certain point which we have put so much pressure in the body, and now reality takes over, and now my certain aspects of my body have deteriorated. So now I needed this surgery. I didn't want to have it. And but again, I think sometimes what is in our way as being a growth and evolution is going to push. And then one night, I already had refused to have this surgery. And one night, I just always felt that some feeling of something wasn't going to go well with it. And then one night I went to sleep and I was feeling this sense of dread, this sense of something. I didn't know what it was. And since I am an empath, very sensitive, I can capture and I can feel the emotions of the world around. I thought maybe somebody is having a hard time and I'm picking up in that energy. And then I went to my meditation to calm the mind, to see if I could just free myself. Normally, when I say this doesn't belong to me, it goes away. This time, nothing. I meditated, I calmed my mind, I was present. I said, this doesn't belong. And that feeling was still there. And I was like, something is not right. I went to sleep that night, and that feeling of dread was such that I almost couldn't fall asleep. I woke up, I kind of finally fell asleep a little. I woke up 3 in the morning, and the feeling was such that I woke up almost like with tachycardia. I said, I don't know what is happening, but I was very, very worried. And then I went into my practice of, I do a practice in which I become very present, and I said, can I be with this? Can I allow this, whatever it is, to be here? And where does it feel? And I just put my hands on whatever feel, just to embody what is happening, just to be present. And when I did this, I heard the voice that says, do you trust me? And the moment I said, yes, I do, everything lifted. The dread, the worry, the tachycardia, everything. It was like, imagine like you have a heavy weight on you and it was taken away. And I felt that extreme sense of peace, calmness, serenity, well-being. like a breath. And then is when I heard the words again, you are in sync with God, which means you enter in a state of complete presence and connection. And then, oh, for the rest of the night, I was just meditating, just in peace. I got up in the morning. The first thing I felt, I want to go water the plants. And when I went to water the plants, I look at my hands. I'm like in adoration of the divine being that we are. We're definitely, yeah, we're an extension of God. I was in that completely in synchronicity with and in aligned with that divine conscious presence. And then remember the words, do you trust me? Then he's like, yes, I complete trust. What means you're in the hands of what? The divine. What is to happen? I don't know. 3 days later, I was in a very, very horrific car accident. And in this car accident, somebody hit us in the back. Our car just flew in a dish, and we didn't have like, the car was incredible. The way my husband worked with the car and everything, we ended in this dish. But what happened is that the seat belt caught me so hard, it pressured so hard my belly and my chest, that the surgery that I was avoiding had to happen because of this accident. So it's like it's like sometimes, like I said to you, some things the body was telling me you need it. I was fighting it, fighting it, fighting it, and then life made things happen for me to, oh, you're having this surgery, no matter. Okay, I guess I do. Then so right after the accident, I thought I didn't, that my body wasn't really severely impacted, but it was. So 2 weeks after the accident, I had to have this surgery. And then when I went, incredibly, all the circumstances also brought me to find another doctor, because another sense I was having is that I wasn't at ease with that other doctor that was going to do the surgery previously. And I met a different doctor. I felt more aligned with this doctor. I felt more safe and all that, more relaxed. So the day of this surgery, I told this doctor, I told her, you have to monitor my blood pressure. I knew something was going to happen. I said, you have to monitor closely my blood pressure. She called the anesthesiologist, because I knew the other doctor I had before would have not listened. Many doctors don't listen to it, because I know that, I guess, some feel arrogant, some others just don't think the patient has anything really clear in their mind. Like, what do you know? You're just a patient. But this doctor listened, and she was okay, okay. And then that was happening. They were paying close at they monitoring my blood pressure. And yes, something that never crossed their mind that could really happen, because I don't think, I mean, anything could happen in a surgery, but my blood pressure dropped dramatically and I went into hypothermia. And when this happened, I went back to the light. And incredibly, again, like in the motorcycle accident, I didn't need to go through all the story of, oh, I crossed a meadow, or I went to the tunnel, or I went through this, or I went to that. No, directly, like, let's cut with the chase. You're here. And I was completely in the light. And when I am like, wow, again, the sense of detachment, complete detachment. And, I even felt a little bit like later, like the sense of like, oh my God, how can tell this story, what happened to my husband or my son or my family? Because at that moment, I was so detached that it was the sense of like, I don't need to come back. And knowing that if I didn't come back, everything was going to be all right. See, my son will go through whatever challenges, but he was going to make it. My husband, the family, people will have their own experiences and challenges regardless. I was detached completely of the outcome. I knew everything was perfect, that everything was the way it meant to be. So at that moment, different from the other experiences, was the first time I was asked if I wanted to stay or I wanted to come back. So the choice was given. And a lot of the experiences I have heard, people usually they're told is not your time. You have to go back. In my other two experiences, I wasn't asked anything. I was just back. But now I was asked, you want to stay or you want to go back? And the moment I heard, you want to stay, of course I want to stay. I've been wanting this all my life. I am home. What question is that? Of course I want to stay. But then I heard, oh, you want to go back. And then at that moment, I'm like, wait a minute. Is this a test? That just came to my mind, that moment of awareness. Is this a test? Why am I giving a choice? And then I said, Then is when this clarity came, and I was like, wow, if God is everything, if God is ever present, if God is always, always part of the whole, and absolutely everything is a manifestation of consciousness, if we are all an extension of God, and everything we see is a manifestation of consciousness, then where is here and where is there? I said, oh, I get it. There is no here and there is no there. So now that you asked me about the other near-death experiences, it was that realization, the door never closed. There is no here, there is no there. There is only consciousness manifested in different ways. And I'm like, wow, there's no difference. Difference is only in the perception of reality. So my only answer that came at that moment was, keep me where I can serve God the most. This also answered your question before. This is my mission, my purpose, as you have a mission and a purpose. And then at that moment, I was back. And at that moment, the anchor that I needed to come back, knowing, see, before I was in complete detachment from my family, from everything, everyone. At this moment, I realized, oh no, I still have work to do with my family, with the people I know, with the people, whoever is I'm going to interact with in this world. And I knew, oh, I still have a purpose in this level of reality. And then I was back. And it's when I knew, with that complete knowing again, oh, and that peace, it feels so good knowing I don't have to go anywhere, because home is not a place, it's a state of being. I am already home. I'm already home here. And now how can I exchange with the world, the knowing that you don't need to go anywhere. You just have to remember who you truly are. That's all.
So, you know how you said before you didn't feel like you belonged in this world? Now, after that experience, I'm assuming it changed. Like you felt you were part of everyone and everything.
Completely, yes. That sense of belonging is like, what am I talking about? I belong, you belong because you exist. Period. It doesn't matter where I am. It doesn't matter where I go. It doesn't. It's like I am. I am. Wherever I am standing, I am an expression of the divine, pure presence.
And did depression go away and like
Completely gone, gone, washed away. Nothing is left. It's like because and you know, incredibly, a couple of after that, a year after that, I went to visit my family in Colombia, and then I think I spent already like a couple of weeks with them, and somebody came and say, "You must be missing home." You know how you
hmm
travel, go
hmm
somewhere after a month, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, I miss home. I want to go to my cuddly bed." And somebody told me, "You must miss home," and I said, at that moment, I just look at the person and I had the absolute inner feeling there's nothing to miss because wherever I am home. Wherever I am home. It's like it's knowing that it's no different. Is that um the presence itself make you feel present with everything there is at every moment, any moment, wherever you are. You don't miss anything because there's nothing to miss. You are the essence of everything. Is this sense of wholeness. This is this thing that I actually experienced in my first near death. I call it nothingness and wholeness at the same time. It's the realization I am nothing I think I was, but at the same time, I am totality. It's the interconnection with all things. So nothing can be really, nothing belongs to you, and at the same time, you're everything. So it's just incredible. It's paradoxical because it's always that sense of nothing but wholeness. Yeah.
So, what advice would you want to give to someone who is struggling with understanding or accepting their own near death experience?
Yeah, and that's a beautiful that you asked me that because that's the work I'm doing now. I'm just finished writing another book. Hopefully it will be available sometime this year. And is that journey is the journey to realize that when you had that near that experience is just the realization of home. And now how can we ground that home? How can we just keep that knowing that, oh no, I am just touching the true nature of my reality? And how can I bring that and like ground it here, like bring it here, show and be that ambassador to explain others you don't need to die to experience heaven. You don't need to die to experience home. See, and for the ones that are having a near-death experience or had a near-death experience and are longing for home is again just use experiences like this person here telling you that see it in your own eyes. We can close our eyes right now, smell this, and people say, "Oh, this coffee feels like heaven." You're experiencing it already. So it's like, how can we bring what we experience out there in our daily life and being more present with a flower, being more present with a smile of a child, and even with the suffering itself? My favorite word has become Can I be, oh, my favorite sentence, can I be with this? Can I allow this to be? And knowing that our human experience, wow, is an opportunity to experience contrast, things we will not experience if we're not in human form. What happened is that human form offer the capacity to be at, I guess it is the highest level of contrast we can experience. And this is another thing that it is incredibly amazing. Being human is not an easy thing, that we have clear. But is the opportunity to awaken the inner warrior, to awaken, to realize that I'm not as easy, like breakable as I thought I was. I said, if someone that had had a lot of suffering and is sitting right here in front of me, I go say, what is keeping you here? You're capable. You're stronger than you think you are. You're wiser than you think you are. You're smarter than you think you are. You're more resilient than you think you are. You are incredible. And now having the capacity to know that you are soul beside knowing that you are a form, use all that in your advantage. Use all that to live your human experience to the fullest, because anyways, someday we're going to leave. And I know this is not easy, but I also love the sentence that says, a warrior is not the fearless one, is the one that despite the fear goes to battle. And that's us. We're more courageous than we think we are. We're more amazing than we think we are. Let's use all that in our advantage. And let's use the knowledge we have acquired in these near-death experiences, not to convince others. That's when the near experiencers also suffer. Not to convince others, but to be, like the being soul I said, don't do or say, be the embodiment. How you teach love? By being love. How you teach a child to be loved? You don't teach by saying love is this and that, by cuddling, by feeding it, by cleaning the tears, by kissing a boo-boo. You are the embodiment of that. Be the embodiment of that experience. See, so the frustration goes away. Nobody understands. Then at this moment in life, there's so many more groups that have been developed to come on here, I understand you. Gather with the ones that understand you. Look for the ones that where you can find peace of mind, but be the presence for the ones that don't understand. Be more compassionate with the ones that don't know what you're going through, because they don't know it. It's like this. I can tell you, look, orange juice tastes this way, and orange juice is great and it's delicious, but if you never tasted, you don't know it. You cannot know it until you taste it yourself, see? Or if you taste something and it gave you stomach ache, I can tell you, no, look, next time you eat it, it's not going to be like that, but your memory is fixed on that. So you have to little by little reprogram yourself. So I just say to the people that have suffered this kind of depression, just little by little look for help. Don't be alone. There's more and more and more of us sharing, and this internet thing has given us the possibility to find groups, to find community, to find places. Don't be alone, and don't go in life convincing others, because it's not going to work. Or don't try to expect the people that don't understand to have the empathy. Not everybody's empathic either. So just start looking for the community and looking for the places where you can share. And I am part of, I've been part of a couple of those communities, just sharing circles where people come and share their experience, and that creates so much, yeah, a huge difference in the life of this person. And one more thing about this of being human. Look, I have had so many experiences with beings of light and with the other realms and the spirit realm that, look, when we come here, it's a really big challenge. I know not many beings accept to be humans. I have met many beings of light. I have met many someday, and I'm writing a complete different book about that. I don't know how many different beings of light I have met, but I have met many beings that would never dare to be human because it's hard. Guess what? It's like if we choose, I don't know, Harvard. I mean, the most difficult university, and you have to go through all those years. Or when you pick to go to the military and you have boot camp, you're putting yourself through that. That's us. We just pick this because we know that as hard as it is, this experience of contrast brings us to evolve. You cannot know. The only way to know what you are not, or not different. The only way to know what you are is by knowing what you are not. And the human experience helps us peel the layers of what we are not in a very, I would just say, sometimes brutal way. We come here and it's like, oh my God, there's so much challenge. But at the end of the day, this is what gives us the possibility to remember, to crack the ego open, to go and like through suffering, to say, I'm done with this. And look, if you think about it, how many organizations, how many people have turned to spirituality because of suffering? I have suffered so much that this brought me to ask the question, what am I doing here and who am I? So when we die, all these beings that never dared to come here, they bow to us. They do. They literally. People that have had shared that experience can tell you about that. There's like these huge gatherings. Like it's like we are giving like a pin, like when you go to Boy Scouts or and then they give you that, you want that medal, that pin of like you were human and you dare to be human. Oh my gosh. So that's what happened. It's like you get this diploma, like, oh wow, you dare to be human, you dare to remember, you dare to peel the layers. But this is when I say to people, like, waking up is like peeling layers. Imagine an onion. And I said, what happened when you peel an onion? You cry. Because removing the layers of attachment is one of the hardest things. Because attachment, we become attached to what we are, an identity we have created, to the things that we have, to the things that we identify with, and it hurts. So sometimes it requires one life, two life, three life, whatever amount of lives to peel those layers and go back to remember, I am soul. I am the light of consciousness. I just got distracted and forgot. And this is the journey to remember who we truly are.
That was beautiful. And thank you so much, Ingrid. Until next time.
Thank you for having me here. I hope I try to be as clear, as informative as I can. So thank you.